Hey everybody, welcome back to Video So taking out a fun and bonus episode for you guys this evening because a viewer of mine sent me a link to RoboCop vs Predator, and I will say that's quickly becoming one of my favorite throwback games I've played in 2024. Now granted, it is only mid-January, but this is still absolutely impressive. Oscar Celestini and his team put this thing together, and it feels like a long-lost Game Boy or Atari Lynx game come to life. Before you get too far involved, it'd be a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined to want to support the channel, you got a Patreon link down below as well. But when I say this game feels like something that was found in a drawer, a prototype for a game never released, I 100% mean it. Outside of the fact that it's in a 16:9 aspect ratio, this feels like a classic Game Boy game in a Game Boy franchise that never existed. And this has so many nods to 80s and 90s action movies, some of my favorite movies of all time in the genre. This is just basically like catnip to me. And if you can't tell already, this is a 2D side-scrolling run-and-gun game. If you ever played any of the RoboCop arcade games or the console games, this is going to feel infinitely familiar. This is a very difficult game as well. It took me about 40 minutes to get enough footage to get a 10-minute video out. But the difficulty is what I love so much about it. You don't just run forward and shoot with wild abandon trying to kill all the opponents on screen. You need to slow down, you need to think about what's happening in front of you, and you need to time all of your movements. It feels like a puzzle rhythm game in an action platformer game all rolled up into one, and that just 100% works in the context of what they're trying to do here with this game. From amazing music to a really fun and absolutely out there story to really great 8-bit style graphics, this absolutely just blew me away the first time I played it. I went in expecting to have some fun, but I'm definitely going to try to finish this game and follow along with its progress because I absolutely just fell in love with the overall aesthetic and aspect of RoboCop trying to fight the Predator, because those are two amazing action movies, but they never really went together outside of this game, and boy do they actually go together super well. But as we move on to the second area here, Jack Burton shows up. Now I would have said I would have preferred Snake Plissken because I do think Escape from New York is the best John Carpenter movie featuring Kurt Russell ever, but you tell me down below who you'd rather have. Don't get me wrong, Big Trouble in Little China is a very close second, but honestly Snake Plissken will always have my heart as far as action movies are concerned. But I had no idea Jack Burton was even going to show up here until the first time I played the game. This has so many nods to movies that you know and remember. It's going to be fun just to see what character appears next. But when I say this game is difficult, I am not kidding around whatsoever. There is no difficulty slider. If you die, you go back to the main menu and you can continue from where you died as far as the beginning of the level is concerned. But that's what I really enjoy about this as well. Every single level feels slightly like a puzzle. You need to identify where the enemies are, their bullet patterns, and how to affect them. Because the dude at top there is always going to be throwing down these grenades, you need to shoot at a diagonal to stun him, make him duck down, so it is safe to advance. And that's where a lot of the fun comes in here, trying to figure out how to move forward, what you need to do next, and what the best course of action is. There's a lot of strategy involved in a game that if I just showed you a screenshot of, you would think it would be pure action, but you can see I took 2 deaths already, and it took me about 12 lives or 12 attempts to actually get through this stage. Thankfully the developers did put a life up in the middle so you can take a few hits, but you need to play close to perfect to understand. But even here with these 2 grenades being thrown at the same time, you need to jump at just the right time and use that diagonal bullet to hit the first enemy while you shoot up at the top of the screen to try to avoid everything else going on. It is key to read what's going on the screen and identify when you can move, but I find so much fun in that, and you marry it with so many fun movie properties. This is just a love letter to fans both of 80s action movies as well as Game Boy games. It has both the universes combined together in one of the best ways I've ever seen. The highest compliment I can give to fan games is usually I feel like this is a retail game that was just lost, and this has those vibes. This does not feel like something fans and developers made in their spare time. It feels like something that would have been retail released to a ROM cartridge. And it's got an absolutely outstanding soundtrack as well. It really fits the overall vibe of the game, and it's got some great writing too. So go ahead and listen for 45 seconds, and I'll come back and show you a lot more of RoboCop vs Predator, because this is just amazing. Not only do I love the soundtrack as it definitely is fitting to an 80s action movie vibe, but it also sounds like the bitrate's been stepped on and this has all been heavily compressed, which makes you think even more it's part of a Game Boy hardware package. And you will see here add 209, you need to find the spot where you can damage him. Again, a little bit of a puzzle mixed in with an action platformer, and those two mechanics really do work. And as a nod to what I assume are the RoboCop arcade games, you also get this third-person pseudo first-person view in a bonus round where you have to shoot 30 targets, moving the reticle left and right like it's an XY coordinate game. And all of the graphics, especially here with the dithering and that vanishing point being in the center towards those doors, this looks absolutely incredible. It has that 8-bit vibe, but with modern visual tricks to give you that aesthetic from back in the 80s and early 90s, but with all the modern trappings of a higher resolution. Even the animations in RoboCop's turn frame here, there are enough frames that really make you think it just is supposed to be like that. As we move on to more story, who appears but Dutch? Obviously this being versus Predator, he would definitely make an appearance. Pretty much every action movie star from the 80s and 90s is in here as far as I can tell. Now I haven't seen Steven Seagal yet, but I'm sure he might be in here somewhere. Honestly, I've not yet beaten this game, so tell me down below, does Steven Seagal appear or not? I hope he does. But again, the story in this is absolutely absurd, and that just totally works. You can tell this is all very tongue-in-cheek, it is humorous, and it's just kind of taking the tropes of 80s and 90s action movies and putting them into an 8-bit video game that feels like something you absolutely want to play. As we move on to the second stage, there are 5 stages in this game, and it doesn't seem like it's done yet from the notes. I will leave a link to the page of the developers below so you can check this out, and trust me, you 100% want to do it. This is one of those games that again does not feel like it's made by fans for fun. This feels like something that actually had a budget dedicated to it. All of the sprite work, the backgrounds, all of that light shading in those boxes on the racks back there do give the scene a sense of depth when really it's basically taking place on a complete flat 2D plane. And as we move further in again, there's going to be more enemies, they're going to be harder to hit, and you're really going to have to strategize as to when and where you want to move. This is what I love so much about it. I would still love this and I would still be humored by it if it was just a straight run and gun like a Metal Slug with the story, but the developers put so much into this and so many mechanics that really make it challenging. It makes you want to come back for more, because when you die, when you take a hit, it's because you made a mistake and not because the game was unfair to you, and I love that sense of difficulty. It's what I crave when I play a game like this, because games were just harder in some ways back in the day, especially with not letting you continue from where you died. It might be fun to have a mode in this game where you had at least one extra life in a stage if you wanted to activate it. That way you could take one death and continue forward, because if you die mere inches from the door at the end of this level, you're going to go all the way back to the beginning, but you're going to know it was your mistake you made, and you're instantaneously going to want to start the level over again and play some more to see what comes next. But one more taste of the soundtrack, because this next track works super well, and I'll be right back. Just some fun music, and now Doc Brown from Back to the Future shows up with Deckard from Blade Runner, and you have absolutely no idea why they are here, because Doc Brown is not an action movie here, but Christopher Lloyd and his representation of Doc were 80s icons, so you're just going to get a lot of amazing 80s things in this game. And again, the dithering in the pixels, the overall artwork, everything here looks incredible. That looks like Doc Brown, or that looks like Deckard, and you're only doing it in a grayscale black and white, and of course the story is absolutely absurd off the walls, but that's what really works in the context of RoboCop versus Predator. It is so strange, it is so weird, it is so tongue-in-cheek lighthearted that you can't help but believe absolutely everything you see here. And I'm only showing you the first 2 stages, even though I did get to stage 3 to leave a little bit of that intrigue as to who might show up next. And in this stage you have to disarm a certain amount of missiles before they go off, and it has a very difficult curve going here. You're definitely going to play this level more than once, but you're always going to want to keep playing. This game drives you forward, it makes you want to see what happens next, not just in the story but in also the gameplay, and that is why this is just a straight 10 out of 10 joy to play. And do be aware, in the main menu there's more than one visual mode as well. You can get this thing with that classic green Game Boy color, although I definitely prefer the grayscale black and white, and you can also throw some screen filters on. But if you haven't heard of RoboCop vs Predator, you have now, and I can't recommend you play it and support the devs enough. I love stuff like this. It's been a lot of fun in 2024 doing doing videos on new games, so if you can think of something like this I should do a video on, leave me a comment down below. Short of that, we're done and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!